Welcome once again to another episode of the Sports-Oriented World Podcast, your home of sports stories that has caught your attention and bring it down to an African perspective. That's what it's all about. And of course, I'm your host once again, solomonokukuwafua. As usual, thank you to everybody who has been a part of this podcast journey from day one. Those are the regulars. Thank you so much for sending me feedback at whatever platform you have been using, either on social media, either on YouTube, or whatever podcast platform you listen to. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you so much for your feedback. I know you have been showing me love just as they have been showing you love through all the episodes that I've done so far. And I'm sure you love the content, you're blessed by it, you're informed by it, you're entertained by it. Thank you once again. And to all the newbies, newcomers, new kids on the block, first time guests, I hope that within the next 1 hour, it is not worth wasting your time, because I'm going to be giving you the latest stories. I know it's been a long time since the last one happened, but I have a lot. It's basically a bumper of content to share in this episode. So of course, once again, Sports Oriented World Podcast is your home of sports stories that is known to many, and making sure that it's been broken down from an African perspective to give you a better understanding on what's behind those stories. So, once again, thank you for staying tuned. Thank you for staying plugged in. Thank you so much once again. It's because of you, people like you, that I get to do what I love doing. And I know it's just the beginning, but I know as time moves on, the network will grow, the podcast will be known, and it's going to be worth the brand as time progresses. So thank you so much for being a part of this podcast, and we have a lot to talk about. I don't even know where to start. Now, since the last episode that I've done, a lot has happened. Of course, there's the FIBA Basketball World Cup qualifiers for the men. So I'll be talking about it from the African perspective, from the African continent. They'll be talking about the match day 3 of both CAF Champions League and the CAF Confederations Cup. We're also going to tell you about the draws for the UEFA Europa League and the UEFA Europa Conference League round of 16 after the second leg of the knockout playoffs took place last week. And then we're also going to talk about the new season in Major League Soccer, giving you a review of it, which happened last weekend. And also we're going to be talking about the NCAA basketball, which is now in the final weeks of regular season. So I'll be giving you a top 25 rankings from the men's side as we are waiting for the women's top 25 rankings, as it's going to be released today, which I'm going to tell you about it in the next episode, which is tomorrow. And of course, more to talk about is, of course, the suspension for a number of countries, including Kenya, which is where I'm from, Russia, because of what they are doing right now, which is invading Ukraine, which is against international law, and of course Zimbabwe. So all those 3 countries suspended by FIFA. I'll be telling you why. And of course, last but not least, the NFL International Series matchups, or the teams that are going to be there. And of course, well, how can I forget the teams who have qualified for the African Women's Cup of Nations. So that's what I'll be talking about today. And of course, without any further ado, today is the beginning of March, and of course March is known for the March Madness. So to those of you who are fans of college basketball, for both the men and the women, of course I'll be updating you on the rankings, and of course latest events happening in college basketball, so that we gear up towards the March Madness. Of course, March Madness, 68 teams for the first time on the women's side. Before it was 64, that was last year, and then for the men's side, as usual, 68 teams. So, yeah, just basically a sneak peek of what I'll be discussing. But without any further ado, let's go straight to it. Now, where do we start from? Let's start with the African Women's Cup of Nations. Now, as you're all aware that Morocco is hosting it, 12 teams are supposed to be in. So Morocco qualified already, being the first because they are hosting it. Number 2, Uganda qualified through a walkover during the final round of qualifiers. Why? Because the Harambee Starlets had to withdraw because of the ban. Because of the federation now being led by the caretaker committee, which was of course being assigned by the government and not of CECAFA or CAF or FIFA whatsoever. And of course FIFA did not approve of it until when they announced the ban yesterday. So I'll be talking more of why they were banned and all those things. But of course Uganda had to qualify, walk over without kicking the ball. So 2 teams in even before the final round of qualifiers took place. Now as the qualifiers concluded last week, 10 more have entered, and that is Burundi, Zambia, Senegal, Togo, Nigeria, the Super Falcons, the defending champions, Tunisia, Burkina Faso, Botswana, Cameroon, and South Africa. So that's the 12 that are going to be playing in the African Women's Cup of Nations, taking place in Morocco from the 2nd of July to around 23rd of July 2022. So watch out for that. And of course, teams to watch out for that tournament is of course the host Morocco, who are from the north, the defending champions the Super Falcons of Nigeria, who are from the west, South Africa, who of course are from the south, and last but not least Cameroon, who I believe are from the central part of Africa. Now if you look at it from the eastern part, you have 2 teams, that is Uganda and Burundi. Burundi playing their debut in the African Women's Cup of Nations. Let's see how far they can go with it. Of course, you can call them as outsiders, you can call them as the new kids on the block, but you just have to wait till July. So that's what happened during that time that I've not been podcasting. So yes, African Women's Cup of Nations lineup is finally out with 12 teams in. Then the next thing to talk about is the FIBA Basketball World Cup qualifiers, which took place last weekend from the men's side. And of course I'll be talking about it from the African continent, because I'm an African, I'm a millennial, and I must talk everything African to make sure that Africa is known all over the world. And of course there were 12 matches that took place in a number of 3 days, that is from 25th to 27th, and that focused on Group B and Group D. Why? Because they did do their qualifiers late last year, meaning that Group A and Group C did their own last year, and then Group B and D did theirs last weekend. So they had their first 3 games happening during that time. And of course, without any further ado, let's go with those results that happened during that period. Starting with 25th of February 2022, 4 matches happened, 2 in Group A, 2 in Group D. Of course, in Group B, South Sudan beat Rwanda by 12 points, which is of course ended 68-56. Then Cameroon lost to Tunisia by 4 points, which ended 51 for Cameroon, 55 for Tunisia. That was in Group B. And of course in Group D, Kenya lost by 10 points to DR Congo, which is the scoreline ended 56 Kenya, 66 DR Congo. And then Senegal beat Egypt by 18 points, which is 75 points to 57. Of course Senegal being on the left side of your scoreline, and then Egypt being on the right side of the scoreline. Then the next day, on the 26th of February, Tunisia lost by 6 points to South Sudan, which ended 64 to 72 points. And then Rwanda lost by 12 points to Cameroon, which ended 45 to 57. And then Egypt beat Kenya by 54 points, which ended 105 points to 51. And then for DR Congo, they won by 5 points, which ended with 62-57 to Senegal. And speaking of Egypt, they beat Kenya, so not forgetting. Then if you go to the 27th of February 2022, South Sudan beat Cameroon by 6 points, which added 74 points to 68. The Tunisia beat Rwanda by 14 points, which added 65 points to 51. And then Egypt beat DR Congo by 11 points, which added 62 points to 51. And then Kenya lost by 45 points, which ended 55 points to 100 by Senegal. So what does that tell you? In Group B, from what I am seeing, I'm seeing South Sudan being the surprise package. And remember, Luol Deng is their leader in terms of the Basketball Federation. And they have won the first 3 games so far. So wow. If they continue like this, they could qualify for the Basketball World Cup next year in 2023, which will be happening in Southeast Asia. So South Sudan, that's a team to watch out for in Group B. And if you look at Group D, you should watch out. I think I'll go with Senegal. Why? Because Senegal won 2, lost 1, right? But I believe they scored most points, if I'm not wrong, out of the other teams in that group. So I think those two are the teams to watch out for. And then if you look at maybe the other two, you go to look at, if you look at Group B, I consider to look at Cameroon. Let me see. Tunisia. Yeah, I'll go to Tunisia. So Group B, watch out for South Sudan and Tunisia. And if you go to Group D, watch out for Senegal and Egypt. But if you go to the rankings according to the draw they did, if you are to split it into 4 pots, Nigeria, Tunisia, Angola, and Senegal. Now those are the most likely teams with the highest chances of qualifying for the Basketball World Cup for the men. If you look at the other pot, which I had to make my own calculations, I've of course Egypt, Cameroon, and Mali. Now those are the other teams that are fighting for at least that one last spot for the main tournament. And then if you look at the rest, you have Central African Republic, DR Congo, Uganda, South Sudan, Rwanda, Cape Verde, Kenya, and Guinea. Now, like I said, South Sudan men's basketball team are a team to watch out for because they have already won their first 3 games. So that is something worth being careful for. And then if you look at the defending champions, the Tigers of Nigeria, who are yet to play their second round of group stage matches, which is going to kick off in July. Actually, all the 4 groups, there are 16 teams broken down to 4 groups of 4. Their second half of group stage matches to qualify for the main tournament will kick off between 1st all the way to the 3rd of July 2022. So those are the 16 teams fighting for that 4 or 5 slots for the Basketball World Cup happening next year in Southeast Asia. So that's the update from that front. And then, if we're going any further, let's talk about the match day 3 of the 2 big club competitions in African football, and that's got to do with the African Champions League and the African Confederations Cup. So, of course, you all know 3 match days have been played, so that means the first half of the group stage is done. But just to give you a review of how it happened last weekend in the CAF Champions League and the CAF Confederations Cup. Now let's begin with the CAF Champions League, where this source I'm getting it from CAFonline.com. Of course, the headline says Raja remains the only perfect side after round 3. Now, what does that tell you? It tells you that Raja Casablanca of Morocco are the most likely favorites to win this trophy, the CAF Champions League. But let's just extract from what the article is saying. Of course, starting in Group A, according to CAFonline.com, and it says South African Giants, Mamelodi Sundowns picked perhaps what was the biggest result of not only Group A but the entire round of matches this weekend, when they stand the defending champions Al Ahly 1-0 in Cairo. Now, like I said, this is the Pitso Motsimane derby. Why? Because Motsimane former club was Sundowns and his current club is Al Ahly. Now, this was the first time ever that the 2016 champions beat Al Ahly in Cairo, and also the first time they were scoring a goal against the Red Devils at their backyard. So wow, what a game for the Sundowns, owned by the CAF president himself, Patrice Motsepe. And I'm sure he was watching that game in Cairo, even if he was not there physically. And I'm sure he was watching his own team play against Al Ahly, led by his good friend of his, Pitso Motsimane. Now the win saw Downs move to 7 points and top of the standings, while Ahly, who have played 2 matches only, of course the first game, which was supposed to play against Al Merrikh, postponed due to their involvement in the Club World Cup in Abu Dhabi during the period of the match day 1. Of course, Al Ahly are third with a point. Meanwhile, Al Merrikh earned bragging rights from the Sudanese derby after beating arch rivals Al Hilal 2-1 in Cairo. Remember, why are they playing in Cairo? Because of the stadium, which is not fit for CAF standards. To go to 4 points, they stay second in the standings. So, as the results go in Group A, Al Merrikh beat Al Hilal in the Sudanese derby 2-1. Al Ahly losing at home by a goal to nil to the Mamelodi Sundowns. They should even call this game the Motsimane derby. Now if you go to Group B, as the article says, Raja sits pretty on top of the standings with 9 points and look well on course to charging to the quarterfinals. They have picked identical 1-0 results in all their 3 matches. Now that's a bit worrying. Yes, they may have won all their 3 games so far 1-0, but still scoring few goals. That means they have only scored 3 goals. Yes, they may have 100% record, but 3 goals for a team of that standard, I think that's a bit worrying. But the article continues to say, and despite slim margins, they have had the job done. So I think it's just a matter of experience and the defense. South African debutants Amazulu have been the group's surprise package. Like I said, Amazulu, being debutants of the tournament, are going to shock people in one way or another. Now, of course, Amazulu is coached by a legend in South African football, Benny McCarthy. They started the group phase with the same 1-0 loss away to Raja, but since then, back-to-back wins over Oroya and USATF, both by 1-0 matches at home, have lifted them to second and 6 points. Now, that is going to help them. Why? Because now that they're going to play away at Oroya, which Oroya already the best team in West Africa according to the rankings, and if you look at USATF, if they go away at the north, you all know it's going to be very difficult unless you are Mamelodi Sundowns. It's going to be a tough hill to climb, especially for debutants like Amazulu. But I think in the second half of the group stage matches for Amazulu, I think they're going to have a good one. They just need to at least win one and then maybe draw the rest when they're going to play out. I think all they need to do is win all their home games, and then when they go away, get draws for most of them. So that's how I'm going to see. Setif sit third after losing back-to-back matches with Oroya, who have lost all their 3 games tailing the group. The Guinean side is also the only team in the group phase yet to score a goal. Wow. So as the results say, Raja Casablanca won by a goal to nil at home to Oroya. Amazulu winning at home by a goal to nil to ESATF. If you go to Group C, the article says once again, this looks like one of the toughest groups in this season's Champions League. Esperance, Tunis, who sit top, and Sead Belouizdad of Algeria have earned identical results, each with a win and 2 draws, to go 5 points after the first 3 rounds. Etoile du Sahel and debutants Jwaneng Galaxy are both winless after the first 3 rounds, with Etoile drawing all their matches, while Galaxy have drawn 1 and lost 2. Now, as the results say, Esperance drew goalless at home to Etoile du Sahel. Jwaneng Galaxy lost 2-1 at home to Sead Belouizdad. So that's how it's going out. And then Group D, as the article continues to say, with 2 wins and a draw, Angola's Petro de Luanda sit pretty on top after around 3 matches. Petro earned bragging rights from the Angolan derby on match day 3, beating local rivals Sagrada Esperança 2-1 to move top with 7 points rather. Sagrada have so far managed only 1 point, and their chances of making the last 8 look tougher by the day. But the group's biggest strugglers have been Egyptian giant Zamalek, who just yesterday terminated the contract with their head coach. Speaking of Zamalek, who are yet to win after 3 matches, picking 2 draws before losing against Wydad Club Athletic last weekend. Zamalek came from 2-0 down to manage a late 2-2 draw with Pedro before playing to a goalless draw with Sagrada. Meanwhile, Wydad are second with 6 points. Their only defeat was a shock 2-1 loss to Pedro. Now, as the results say, Wydad Casablanca won 2-1 against Zamalek, and then Sagrada Esperança lost the Angolan derby at home by goal to nil to Petro de Luanda. So that's how it went down in the CAF Champions League last weekend on match day 3. Now going to the Confederations Cup match day 3, as the headline says in CAFonline.com, fantastic Pirates, great Pyramids. I like that headline. Now let's see what the article has to say according to CAFonline.com. Now, in Group A, Pyramids remain leader. Pyramids remains leader. I guess here's facts here. The Egyptian side can thank their defender Ali Gabri. Gabri spelled Gabr. Scored at the last minute. Wow. Starting from the next day, a draw will be enough to qualify Pyramids for the quarterfinals. So look at that. Just a draw for Pyramids. Like I said, time and time again, even before I started this podcast, Pyramids are the Manchester City of Africa. Why? The logo colors are almost similar. their brand of football is similar, and even the budget, even though it's not like done in England, is somehow similar if you put it into an African perspective to Al Ahly, compared to Al Masry, Zamalek, and so forth. So, traveling to Al Ahly Tripoli, Zanaco left with a third defeat in a row in the competition. Ahmed El Tribi and Mohamed El Munir offered the 3 points to their team. 2-0 the scoreline. As the results say in Group A, Pyramids won at home by a goal to nil to CS Sfaxien. Al Ahly Tripoli won at home 2-0 to Zanaco. So that's how it went down in Group A of the Confederations Cup. Now, Group B, Al Ittihad and JS Saoura drew 1-1 in Tripoli. The result means each team has now a victory and a draw, while the Libyans have one game less. Why? Because of what has happened between Royal Pirates and JS Kabylie in the final round of qualifiers for the group stages of this particular tournament. Big turnaround at Mbombela Stadium. Led 2-0 by halftime. That is Royal Leopards. Orlando Pirates finally won the Royal Leopards of Eswatini 6-2. So in short, Orlando Pirates were down 2-0 by halftime, and then you come out and score 6. Wow. Now, as the results say, Al Ittihad draw 1-1 against JS Saoura. Royal Leopards lost 6-2 at home to Orlando Pirates. As of course, Royal Leopards are playing at Mbombela Stadium in South Africa. Why? Because their stadium is not fit for CAF standards to be able to host them. So, that's how it went down the Group B. Now, Group C, still without really shining, TP Mazembe won their second match in this group stage. At home, the Ravens overcame Kondo Sport 1-0 thanks to Glodley Likonza. This third day is also the moment chosen by AS Soto to obtain their first 3 points of the competition thanks to a narrow 1-0 victory over Al Masry. Wow! As the results say, AS Soto won by a goal to nil against Al Masry. That should be a shocker. And the TP Mazembe winning by a goal to nil to Kondo Sport. And then going to Group D, USGN were on fire facing ASEC. The Niamey Gendarmes, I believe that's the nickname, won 2-0 on Sunday against the Mimosas with goals from Wilfred Boli and Victoria Adebayo. I don't know if Victoria is related to Emmanuel Adebayo, who is of course one of the greatest African players. I don't know if that's related to each other, but I'll leave that for another day. On the other hand, Simba fell in Morocco. The Tanzanians lost 2-0 to Renaissance Berkane, who remain at the top of Group D. As the results say, Berkane won 2-0 at home to Simba, and then USGN Niger get their first win in their debut appearance, 2-0 to ASEC. Now that's how it went down in African football from the club perspective. Now, something that also went down in African football, speaking of new developments, according to news that I just got here that I highlighted. Yes, there was the inaugural African Schools Schools Cup in Kinshasa. And of course, Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA, Patrice Motsepe, the billionaire, and the CAF president were present to witness the successful weekend of the African Schools Cup in Kinshasa. Now, just to extract out of everything being said in this article, once again taken from cafonline.com, I believe it continues. Yeah, let me start with this one. Morocco walked away as winners of the inaugural girls tournament, beating South Africa in the final. Now, in the boys section, hosts the Democratic Republic of Congo beat Senegal 3-1. Now, Dr. Motsepe said, quoting, "We need to give the kids the right and opportunity to dream by investing in the lives of young people in our continent. I want to congratulate the winners of this inaugural competition. I also want to thank FIFA and the president of FIFA for the great partnership, but also the role FIFA has played in the delivery of this project." The CAF president said the African Schools Cup was a good platform to launch the upcoming African Schools Championship in March 2022. And he continues to quote, which I am going to say right now. "In the next few weeks, CAF will kick off the African Schools Championship involving 40 countries, and our focus area, just like the African Schools Cup, is to grow football at grassroots level but also to develop young people who will be great ambassadors for Africa. This is an era of hope, but also implementation. End of quote. CAF will give more details in due course on the African Schools Championship. So congratulations to, like I said, Motsepe. He has done a lot for CAF. Look at now. Schools Championship in African football. You already have CAF Women's Champions League. You already have the AFCON now continue to expand to 24 teams. Then with new sponsors like TikTok who are there doing the Cameroon edition, which happened in January. So Motsepe has done a lot for African football. So my shout out to you, Motsepe. Continue to do the good work. Even as we celebrate, I believe, first year or second year at the helm, continue to do so. So as it went down at the grassroots level. Now, one more story to cover from Africa is, of course, the Sun news that just transpired within the last 24 hours or so. And this got to do with the suspension of both the federations in Kenya and, of course, in Zimbabwe. Now, I'm going to read it from the article by BBC Sport Africa, which I'm going to read it for you shortly, which I'm going to extract. Now, the headline said, Kenya and Zimbabwe banned from world football by FIFA, according to BBC Sport Africa, which was mentioned not so long ago. Now, Kenya and Zimbabwe have both been banned from world football by FIFA because of governmental interference in the running of the game. Kenya's sports ministry disbanded the Football Kenya Federation over alleged misappropriation of funds and appointed a caretaker committee in November. That same month, the Zimbabwe FA board was also suspended by the country's government-appointed Sports and Recreation Commission. So in short, these two federations had history of misappropriation of funds, and then the government took charge, suspended the federation, and then put in their own committee. Now, FIFA did not approve of that. Why? Because according to their charter, according to their constitution, the government should not be involved in the affairs of football in Africa. Rather, the regional federations like Sekafa, Kosafa, UNAF, WAFU, and even the UNIFAC are the ones to handle the affairs of the federations in those regions, and not the government. Yes, the government is in charge of the sports ministry, sorry, but not the football federations or any sports federation, because they are not the ones who appointed them. It is the global federation. If it is football, it is FIFA. If it is the Olympics, it is the Olympic Committee, International Olympic Committee. And if it is basketball, it is FIBA, and so forth. So, continue reading it. The reasons for the SRC, now SRC is the one in Zimbabwe, Sports and Recreation Commission. The reason for that intervention include alleged sexual harassment of female referees by technical staff and allegations of fraud within FIFA. Very sadly, and for me as an African, I am not happy about it, and as a sports geek, I am not happy at all, because that is basically professional immaturity and just selfishness and greed that's continuing to eat Africa at all corners. And shame on you to everybody involved in that scandal. They know what needs to be done for the suspension to be lifted and for them to be readmitted, quoted by Gianni Infantino, president of FIFA. Meanwhile, at the end of November last year, Nick Mendwa stepped aside as FK president after being charged with multiple counts of fraud, allegations he has denied. You can continue to deny, but so long as you are killing the careers of young Kenyan footballers, either male or female, because of your actions, you are going to carry that cross. Now, Zimbabwe's SRC was initially given a deadline up to 3rd January by FIFA to relinquish control of football back to FIFA. That demand was not met, but Zimbabwe's men were allowed to play at this year's AFCON, despite that failure by the SRC, which has appointed a 9-member restructuring committee in quotes. Right, Father's boss says that it appears that FIFA is constrained by the provisions of its own statutes to protect certain of the undoubted sexual predators, fraudsters, and corrupt administrators at the helm of football administration in Zimbabwe. That's what SRC is saying. All this in the name of shielding FIFA from, to quote FIFA in its letter, undue interference from a third party. That is what they continue to say in quotes. It is a fact that some of these administrators are facing inter alia charges of sexual harassment, bribery, fraud, and general corruption before Zimbabwe's courts, as they continue to quote. Both FIFA and CAF are fully aware of an insidious culture of sexual harassment perpetrated against female football referees in Zimbabwe. For the 18 months lapsed since these allegations were brought to their respective attention, neither body has initiated any tangible investigation focused on culprits whose names are known to them. End of quote. Both FIFA and CAF have been approached for comment regarding the SRC's claims about the lack of a, in quote, tangible investigation. The SRC statement added that it expects its ongoing suspension of Silva to continue despite the FIFA ban, adding that Silva will return to the FIFA family, in quotes, when it is in a condition fit to do so. That is on the Zimbabwe side. Now let's go to the Kenyan side. Kenya has to hand back control. That's the small headline, according to BBC Sport. In early November, Sports Minister Amina Mohamed set up a caretaker committee to run Kenyan football after an investigation revealed financial irregularities at the FKF. FKF officials were soon locked out of the offices as the committee took over the running of Kenyan football, and men were stepped aside at the end of the month. Now, FIFA is demanding Mohamed resign her decision to appoint a caretaker committee, with the global body also requesting that control of the FKF offices be added back to a federation now led by Mendo's Vice President Doris Bertrand. FIFA did advise that it would cooperate with the ongoing investigation into corruption and any unethical conduct regarding FKF officials during Kenya's ban. Last month, Kenya's administrative was, that is in January, by the time of that posting by BBC Sport, saw its team withdrawn from its Women's Nations Cup qualifying tie against Uganda. Like I said earlier on in this episode, Uganda qualified to the African Women's Cup of Nations without kicking the ball. A FIFA ban means the two countries cannot take part in international competitions until the suspension is lifted. As a result, their respective participation in qualifying for the men's 2023 African Cup of Nations, this is expected to begin in June next year. Actually, the qualifiers for that competition in June this year is thrown into doubt. Now, what do I have to say about this? It's very shameful that corruption, fraud, sexual harassment continues to be the culture of sports in Africa. And for me as an African, and to those of you who are listening or watching me right now, you are ashamed by it, and you even wish to change citizenship or continent of birth, because this is just shameful. And it's also sad that at the same time FIFA and CAF are also not doing their own part. Yes, they want to be the one putting the mallet, hammering federations, but at the same time they also have their own bloodshed to deal with. But I'm not going to speak on their behalf. That is just my opinion. It's just shameful to hear such stories, and the more they do this, the more they are killing careers, and it's very sad. And I hope something is going to be done on all stakeholders, including FIFA, CAF, the regional federations, and of course the national federations that are involved in these scandals. Now that is it from the African front. Now let's talk about the European side. Now I'm going to speak on the draws for the round of 16 of the UEFA Europa League and the UEFA Europa Conference League. Now, out of all the fixtures, one has already been done for with a walkover, and that is the game between RB Leipzig and Spartak Moscow. Why? Because, like I'm going to tell you later on this episode, Spartak Moscow being in Russia and Russia being involved in the invasion of Ukraine, that all its clubs and national teams are suspended till further notice, meaning that they'll have to do it under a neutral flag, playing in neutral venue, which I'm going to explain later on why they have to do that. So that means RB Leipzig are through to the quarterfinals without kicking a ball. But let's go ahead with the draw, how it went down last week. Now starting the Europa League, now that one has been automatically done for, that means now there are 7. Now, these 7 fixtures include Rangers playing to Crvena Zvezda. If you put it in English, that means, I believe, Red Star Belgrade. Then AC Braga playing AS Monaco, FC Porto playing Olympique Lyonnais, Atalanta playing Bayer Leverkusen, Sevilla playing West Ham United, FC Barcelona playing Galatasaray, and last but not least, Real Betis Balompié playing Eintracht Frankfurt. Now, if you had to choose out of all the 7, which ones are the ones to watch out for? I took 4, and I believe you'll agree with me as you listen and watch this. One being FC Porto against Olympique Lyonnais. Why have I chosen that? Because one, FC Porto, former Champions League winners, former Europa League winners, and on the other side, Olympique Lyonnais, one of the teams to watch out for in this tournament. And already they're one of the highest scoring teams in the Europa League. So that is a 2-leg tie to watch out for. And of course, first leg will start in Portugal, which is in Porto. Second leg will happen in Lyon as it goes down. And the second one to watch out for, I believe is good to watch, is Atalanta playing Leverkusen. Now, Atalanta of Italy, just the other day, have a new owner on board. And that is the Boston Celtics. Wow. An NBA team coming to Syria. Now, that increases more involvement of American owners in Italian football. So that means the Americans love the way Italian football is playing. That is why you have new owners like AC Milan, AS Roma, I believe it's Venezia or Spezia, and of course Fiorentina. All of them owned by Americans, most of them being billionaires. So that's how it's going down. Then by Leverkusen, another good team from Germany, who are some of the courses in German football. So watch out for that. Then another match to watch out for is Sevilla playing West Ham. Now we all know Sevilla are the kings of the Europa League. They have won it the most. And you have West Ham United playing their debut in the Europa League. And what a run they have been so far in the Europa League. So that's another to watch out for. And speaking of how it's going to go down between Atalanta and Leverkusen, first leg will be played in Bergamo in Italy. Second leg will be played in Leverkusen in Germany. As for the Sevilla West Ham game, first leg will be played in Seville. And by the way, Seville is the host of the Europa League final, which will happen in late May 2022, and then West Ham United is the second leg is going to be played in London at the London Stadium. Before it was called the London Olympic Stadium. So watch out for that time. The last but not least, Real Betis playing against Eintracht Frankfurt. The Real Betis are the city rivals of Seville, and then Eintracht Frankfurt have the best teams outside the top 3. I mean the big 3, that is RB Leipzig, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund. Eintracht Frankfurt is another one to watch out for. So first leg is going to be played in Seville at on a different date in that same match week, and then Eintracht Frankfurt to play in the second leg. They'll host the second leg in Frankfurt. Now speaking of Frankfurt, they're going to be hosting the NFL International Series, which I'll explain later on in this episode. So watch out, continue to stay plugged in. And that's how it's going on in the Europa League. Now if you go to the Conference League, the Europa Conference League, 8 fixtures are taking place. Now this goes as follows. Olympique de Marseille playing against FC Basel. Leicester City are playing against Stade Rennais. PAOK of Greece play against Ghent. Vitesse are playing against AS Roma. PSV Eindhoven play against FC Copenhagen. Slavia Prague play against Lask. FK Bodo Glimt play against AZ Alkmaar. And then Partizan of Serbia play against Feyenoord. Now if you were to choose out of the 8, which ones are the ones to watch? I've taken 4 once again. The best one to watch, the best, I believe in it, Leicester City against Stade Rennais. Now Leicester City have been a revelation in terms of the way they play their football in England. Outside the top 6, outside the big 6, Leicester is one of them to watch out for alongside West Ham. So, them play against Stade Rennais. Now Stade Rennais is also one of the dark horses in French football. Considered one of the best apart from PSG, Lyon and Marseille and Monaco. Rennais are somewhere there. So that's the biggest game to watch out for in that round. Then I think another one to watch out for, in my opinion, is Olympique de Marseille against Basel. You know very well, France and Switzerland are neighbors, so watch out for that. Of course, Basel being on the south coast, FC Basel being at the border between 3 countries, which is Germany. Two other neighbors, which is Germany and, if I'm not wrong, France. So watch out. And if you are to do a distance calculator between Marseille and Basel, yes, it may take some hours, but it's not far from each other. So that's it. That's how it's going down. And then if you go to which other game, Vitesse playing AS Roma. Now Vitesse qualified qualified through the knockout playoffs after finishing runners-up after their last game playing away to Spurs was cancelled and given the 3 points because Tottenham had COVID at the time of the match week, and so Vitesse qualified to the knockout playoffs, and they won their series against I believe Rapid Vienna of Austria, and that's how they got to round of 16. So then play against AS Roma. I see this game very interesting, but I'll give this one to AS Roma because of the experience of people like Jose Mourinho, who has been in the Europa League before, who has been in the Champions League before. He has won Champions League titles before. It's only the Europa League that is yet to win, but he has a lot of experience. So I'll give this one to AS Roma. And I think the last one which I'll choose, in my opinion, I'll go with PSV Eindhoven playing against FC Copenhagen. I'll go with that one. Why? Because PSV are one of the best teams to watch out for in European club football, and of course in the Netherlands they're in the top 3 if you look at the standings in the division, so watch out for that time. And of course if you look at FC Copenhagen of Denmark, one of the best teams in Denmark, alongside I believe FC Midtjylland and of course Brøndby, who are, I think right now they are in limbo. So but that game, I believe that's a good game to watch out for. So that's how the draws went down for the Europa League and the Europa Conference League. Now, switching gears, let's see. Russia being suspended by FIFA. Another news story. Now, you all know very well Russia started invading Ukraine 6 days ago, as of today being March 1st, 2022. Now, FIFA and UEFA suspend all, not some, all Russian clubs and national teams. That is, I'm reading it from BBC Sport, which was posted yesterday. Now let me run through it quickly. Now, there have been shows of support for Ukraine at football matches since Russia launched its invasion of the country last Thursday. Russian football clubs and national teams have been suspended from all competitions by FIFA and UEFA after the country's invasion of Ukraine. Now, I'm not going to be political about this because, like Cardi B said just the other day, whatever I'm saying here, if I don't say the right things, I might get killed. But God forbid, God is with me. But I don't want to get too political because that is another story for another time. You all know about Putin, egotastic. This is a man who likes to show that he's the greatest leader of all time and he'll do anything at all costs to do what to get what he wants. But I'm not going to go further than that, but continue with what the article is saying. That the World and European football governing bodies said they would be banned until further notice, in quotes. It means the Russian men's team will not play their World Cup playoff matches next month, and the women's team have been banned from the summer's Euro 2022 competition. Meaning they are qualified, but that means that will have to be blacklisted. Spartak Moscow have also been kicked out of the Europa League. Boom! And their last 16 opponents, RB Leipzig, will advance to the quarterfinals. UEFA has also ended its sponsorship with Russian energy giant Gazprom. Football is fully united here and in full solidarity with all people affected in Ukraine, quoted by FIFA. And then UEFA said in a joint statement, which I quote, both presidents hope that the situation in Ukraine will improve significantly and rapidly so that football can again be a vector for unity and peace amongst people. So, again continues to say that, yeah, FIFA and UEFA intervened after Russia, supported by Belarus, launched a military invasion of the neighboring Ukraine last Thursday. Now, I believe also Belarus need to be a part of this ban because they are collaborators. And I'll not go further than that. The Russian men's team have been scheduled to face Poland in a World Cup playoff semi-final 24th March, which is 23 days from today. Now, Russian football's governing body, the RFU, said it, in quotes, categorically disagreed, end of quote, with the decision and would challenge it in accordance with international sports law, in quotes. Spartak Moscow called the decision, in quotes, upsetting, tweeting, quoting, we believe that sport, even in the most difficult times, should aim to build bridges and not burn them. FIFA had previously ruled that Russia must complete the upcoming games in neutral territory under the title Football Union of Russia and without a flag and anthem. However, that announcement had drawn criticism, and Scotland and the Republic of Ireland joined several other nations, including England, Northern Ireland, and Wales, as well as Poland, the Czech Republic, and Sweden, in refusing to play against Russia. On Monday, Scottish FA President Rod Petrie wrote to his Ukrainian counterpart, in quotes, to send a message of support, friendship, and unity. with those two nations due to meet in the World Cup playoffs semi-final 24th March. Now, the 2022 Champions League final, originally due to be played in St. Petersburg on 28th May, has been moved to Paris. In short, Stade de France, which is inside the Nice, which is a suburb of Paris. And I believe PSG are favorites to go there because the final is played at their hometown. While numerous clubs have taken their own steps to disassociate themselves from Russia. Manchester United has terminated its sponsorship deal with Russia's national airline Aeroflot, while Bundesliga club Schalke has cancelled its partnership with main sponsor Gazprom, having last week removed the Russian energy company's logo from its shirts. So, already feeling the pinch in terms of sports. Russia are in Northern Ireland's European Under-21 Championship qualifying group, and their meeting in March will be cancelled. Speaking on Monday, Tottenham manager Antonio Conte said, quoting, "The whole world has to be compact and show it is solid against the stupidity of the people." He added, in quotes, "I think it's right to express our disappointment about the stupidity about some of the decisions. Football and UEFA has to be compact and to show to be strong." Now, just to summarize the rest of the article, other sports will follow football's lead. That is according to an analysis by BBC Sport. Now, other sports have continued to do so. Now, if you look at Formula 1, the Russian Grand Prix has been cancelled. If you look at the IOC pleading with other sports federations to do the same, like the FIFA and UEFA have done, you're already seeing we don't know what is going to happen to the Winter Paralympics. It is going to happen this Friday, and they're supposed to have a meeting tomorrow to see what they're going to do about Russia and Belarus, and things are about to go bad for Russia and Belarus. And of course, speaking of other sports that are going to take action about it now, if you look at rugby, they're saying they've already suspended Russia and Belarus from international and cross-border competition until further notice. If you look at badminton, they've already responded to that unfortunate event by announcing cancellation of all tournaments in Russia and Belarus, in addition to banning the national flags and anthems of the two nations. Now, if you look at tennis, the Ukrainian Tennis Federation has called on the sports governing body, the ITF, to expel Russia and Belarus from the organization and ban Russia from individual and team tournaments. Wow. Now, already, even in equestrian, another sport that said they have also removed Russia from all its competitions, and also Belarus. Ice hockey have done the same thing, same measure. Fencing have done the same thing, but only in form of saying that Ukraine's men's foil team refused to fence against Russia. That is fencing. Now, with all this and other measures, it goes to tell you that Russia are in trouble. Already, even their currency is already worthless, according to financial sources in the news media. And then, to add salt to injury, already they have sanctions. Billionaires' assets have been frozen. You see, like the way Abramovich gave his stewardship to the charitable foundation, who are yet to decide whether they're ready to take stewardship of it. But still, Abramovich will be looked for, because the UK government is wanting his assets to be frozen. But him is currently staying in Israel because he has citizenship by naturalization, but he still is going to be looked out for. So already Russia is feeling the pinch, and I don't know how long Putin is going to continue with his ego, but I'm not going to go further than that. All I'm praying is that Ukraine will be safe and victory is theirs. And I know the aggressors will be defeated. It doesn't matter how big they are, but they're going to be defeated because they're going against international law. So that's it from that side. Now let's go to the college basketball. I know March Madness is near, and we're already in the month of March Madness. So, before I go far, already, if you go to the men's side, already some post-season tournaments have begun, which started yesterday on February 28th. Of course, college basketball is consisted of 358 teams in 32 conferences, which means we have to do average of 11 schools per conference. So a lot has been happening, and let me just give you the top 25 best college teams in men's college basketball according to most of the polls that is being used by the NCAA. Now, of course, Gonzaga is leading, which is the first. The number 2 is Arizona. So if you have to look at it, first is the Gonzaga Bulldogs. The Gonzaga Bulldogs. Then the Arizona Wildcats, that's number 2. Number 3 is the Baylor Bears. 4th is the Duke Blue Devils. Fifth is the Urban Tigers. You have the Kansas Jayhawks as number 6. You have people like Ojai, Agbaji, and Bela. You have, if I'm not wrong, you have, if you can remember very well, in the previous episode, I mentioned 1 or 2 players of African origin who plays for the Bela Bears. Yeah, you have Jonathan Chatua and of course James Akinjo, without forgetting them. And of course you have the Kentucky Wildcats, who are being led by of course one of the best players in college basketball, who I believe should be drafted very soon, and that is Oscar Shebwe. You know what I'm saying? And then you have the Purdue Boilermakers, who are 8. You have the Providence, team from Providence, that's number 9. Number 10 is the Wisconsin. Number 11 is Villanova Wildcats. 12 is Texas Tech Red Raiders. 13 is Tennessee. 14 is Arkansas Razorbacks. 15 is Houston. 16 is the USC. 17 is the UCLA Bruins. 18 is the Yukon Huskies. 19 is St. Mary's. 20 is Illinois. 21 is Texas. 22 is Murray State. 23 is Ohio State. 24 is Iowa. And then 25 is Alabama. But one more thing to mention, extra, a honorable mention, is Michigan State. So those are your teams to watch out for in March Madness. I know March Madness is coming in less than 2 weeks, but if you love people like Oscar Shebwe, who is like Shaquille O'Neal of the college days, those are the players and teams to watch out for. So that's the latest update from the college basketball. I'm waiting for the top 25 rankings from the women's side, which I'll update in the next episode. But that's how it's going on the college basketball. But before I go any further, for the women, the post-season tournament for the conferences will start today, which is March 1st, all the way to the selection show, which is March 13th. Now, speaking of the selection show, our selection show is basically shortlisted the 68 teams that will qualify for the main March Madness, which of course both sides will begin with the first round, and then we'll go to the main tournament. We'll have 64 teams. So that's how it's going down in college basketball. Now that show will take place on March 13th, which is less than 2 weeks from now. March Madness will begin in mid-March all the way to early April for both tournaments. So if you're a fan of college basketball, fan of NCAA, continue to follow it up on the website ncaa.com and you see how it's going down. And then continuing, last but not least, the NFL International Series. Now, of course, the NFL announced yesterday that there are going to be a number of games happening abroad, and of course, with their measures which they have put in place, they have announced the international marketing initiative, which some teams are going to be marketing their team, which teams will be marketing their brand outside the United States, in different countries across the world, in different continents. And last but not least, there's going to be a new NFL regular season game being played in Germany. Of course, for Mexico, it's back after a few years out because of COVID. And then for London, as usual, they continue to do what they are doing. And Jacksonville Jaguars will continue to host one of their home games in London because of the relation of Shahid Khan with London. Of course, he owns Fulham, who are on fire in the championship, who are soon to progress to the Premier League next season. So watch out for that. Now, of course, according to the statement, just extracting. Now 3 games will happen in London, and then 1 game in Mexico, and another one in Germany. Now in Germany is going to be played in Munich. Whereas from next year there'll be 2 games in the NFL played in Germany, 1 in Munich, 1 in Frankfurt. And then London, as always, they have extended their deal. Tottenham Hotspur and Wembley have extended their deals with the NFL to host those games until 2027, 2028, somewhere there. So that's how it's going down. Of course, the Green Bay Packers will now make his debut in the NFL London games, being the last team to play at least 1 game in London. So I'll be so excited to wait for that moment. And of course, the teams that have announced to host the games, of course, Green Bay Packers, who are making their debut, the New Orleans Saints hosting it for the 3rd time, playing it for the 3rd time, Jacksonville Jaguars being the host since 2013. There are even reports that they should relocate to London and become a franchise with a new name, but they'll be doing it for the 9th time. Actually, they're in their 9th appearance in the NFL London games. Now, if you could look at Wembley Stadium, they're back hosting NFL after a few years out due to COVID and all the other things. So yeah, 3 games in London, 1 in Mexico City, 1 in Germany, and that's the expansion of the NFL International Series. And last but not least, let me mention to you the team of the week in the MLS, Major League Soccer. For those of you who follow Major League Soccer, they just started their new season last weekend. And let me mention to you the game of the week as being listed by themls.com, which I've of course got the news from. Now, of course, if you look at the formation, it's basically 3-5-2. Best goalkeeper of the week, that's Bill Hamid of DC United. If you look at the 3 defenders, most of them are 3 center backs, that is Edwards LA Galaxy, Carlos of Orlando City, Marshall Ratti of Toronto FC. Then the 2 wing backs, that is Dominguez of Austin FC, and then Whitechara of Portland Timbers, who are also part of the 5 midfielders. Now the 3 central midfielders, that is Sanchez of LA FC, Gode of Nashville SC, and Zelarayan of Columbus Crew. And then the 2 strikers up front, Carlos Vela, who is one of the best players in MLS, of LFC, and then Joseph Martinez of Atlanta United. By the way, disclosure, I am a big fan of Atlanta United, the best team in the south of the United States. And I hope that one day I'll love to go and watch their games, because they deserve to be there. They deserve to dominate the south, and they deserve to win more MLS Cup titles. But that's it for the Sports Oriented World Podcast. Thank you to everybody watching. And yeah, that's it for today. Until the next episode, have a blessed day. And before I let you go, make sure if you're watching it on YouTube, press the subscribe button, click the bell button to get notified of the next episode. For those who are watching it on social media, comment, share, and like and follow. For those who are listening to it through the podcast platforms, listen to it again in your free time. You can download it and debate with your friends and loved ones. And then for those who are the newbies, I'll make sure I leave the description of the other links so you can get the previous episodes as soon as this episode is done. But other than that, thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of it. And until the next episode, have a blessed March. And whatever you do, may God lead you all the way. And may you have a blessed month of March. Thank you so much. Until next time.